Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and I'm coming at you with another review of... Yep, we are on the original of Fullmetal Alchemist yet again. Coming back to you guys with another review of that. We are doing episode 16 of season 1, That Which Is Lost. And this one continues after the Elrics just had their fight with Scar. We have basically the team looking over, or not the team, the military is looking over the hole that Scar left after his escape and after he injured the Elrics, and the military took Dr. Marcoh into their custody. You have Kane Theory looking at, I think it's part of the rubble or one of the bullets. You have Lust talking sultry like to Kane Theory. Kane Theory like sort of freaks out a little bit, sort of distracted in his work by her. She goes over to Gluttony. Gluttony's about to eat a bullet, and then Gluttony tells Lust he smells the Ishvalan, and it seems like Lust and Gluttony are after the Ishvalan. We also then continue with the Elrics, who are trying to recuperate from their injuries, wondering where they should do next. They both know they need to get themselves repaired, so it looks like they're going to have to head to Resembool to pull this off and do this sort of thing. However, Edward found a note from Marcoh that Marcoh dropped right before Marcoh went to the military, and as they're looking at the note that Marcoh left, that miraculously survived the rain and the ink didn't run through it or whatnot, but that's semantics and whatever at this point. But it said, the first Central Branch library, and that seems to be where Dr. Marcoh hid all his notes and all his research. However, he puts a line at the end that says, "You must find the genuine truth within the truth." And the Elrics are pondering what that means. However, though, you have Alphonse sort of get this quirky, sort of optimistic comment that, they need to tell the military and also help them out with this. And Edward's like, no, we have to stick to this ourselves. And Alphonse is like, well, why? Don't you think Bright Mustang and the others need to know? And you have Edward go, I'm not so sure we can trust them anymore. Because given what Marcoh said in the previous episodes with the military and the misusing of the Philosopher's Stone. So, it cuts into it. You have, Roy Mustang talking with Fuhrer Bradley. Roy Mustang is, basically saying, he would like to be reprimanded for, not telling the Fuhrer about where Marcoh was, because he obviously knew but didn't say anything. And, Fuhrer Bradley's like, actually, I'm actually happy with what you did, Colonel. You did an excellent job. I feel bad for what Boskron, who served under me, did to the good doctor, so I figured I'd keep him in my care as, repercussion for what was done in the past. You've done well, Colonel. And, Mustang wants to mention about the Philosopher's Stone, and he's like, we'll take it from here, Colonel. I will continue to rely on you. Good work. And then, Mustang leaves, and then you have this glaring look of, just like disgust from Fuhrer Bradley, where he looks at the door and says, leave the Philosopher's Stone in the past to die where it belongs, Colonel Mustang. And, just sort of like he's giving off this vibe of, you don't want to get involved in this, you don't want to know how deep this goes, just stay out of it. And, again, if you guys know the truth about Fuhrer Bradley, you know the truth, and if you don't know, well then, you're bound to find out. But again, I sort of like it's how a thing where, because of what I still think is Fuhrer Bradley's respect for Colonel Mustang, he's just telling him, for your own good, Colonel, stay out of it. And, he goes back to his office to where the Elrics are, with Mustang's crew. You have Major Armstrong, who's there, who's again shirtless and sparkling, saying he can use this beautiful artistic alchemy to basically repair Alphonse and Edward. And he's saying, no, you can't do that. We have to go to our mechanic. And he wants somebody to go with him. And you have everybody, trading barbs at him. Basically, the Colonel can't go because he's in charge of Central. You have Hawkeye who can't go because she has to watch the Colonel. You have all his other men who basically don't want to go because they're not equipped to handle Scar. And all the meanwhiles they're going between all the men. You have, oh yeah, Alex Loiuse Armstrong's muscles rippling and bulging like he'll do it. And, like he says, oh, we'll take you, and children should obey their elders. And, just all of those great moments, and they really don't sort of like how this is going. Oh yeah, and I forgot, Mace Hughes was also there, and Mace Hughes can't do it because he's a part of the Führer's, detail team, so he can't go and take them with. And you have the part where they're getting ready to on the train. You have this little boy trying to sell Mace Hughes a paper who caught up with Edward and Major Armstrong. Alphonse is locked in with the sheep, so he can't go anywhere. And you have them, talking with Mace Hughes. Mace Hughes is saying, we have to get back to Central because, there's a thing where I know you said you found something possibly within a place. Like, he sort of makes a vague mention of the library without, notifying Major Armstrong because, again, if there's one person in the military I believe Elric's completely trust, it's probably Mace Hughes because they've gotten to know him and become good friends with him. And Mace Hughes says he'll help them with their investigation, so they let slip that they're going to possibly the library to do research themselves and look up things. Like Mace Hughes said, the little kid runs away, tells Scar where they're heading, and the little kid's panicked because Scar's holding his sister hostage. Scar does give the sister back and then punches through a bag of flour and then, basically makes his escape. He does apologize to the kids as well, but it's just like, wow, the fact that Scar would take 2 kids hostage to get information from military people I thought was pretty hilarious, but also low in a way. But, Scar's desperate himself to find out a lot of these truths. As they're on the train, Edward's fed up with the Major, Alex Loiuse Armstrong, and, he's saying, well, this is great, it's all about the family, and, Edward's, annoyed because he keeps talking about his family generations and how much has been passed down. All of a sudden, Edward can't take it anymore. He goes down to find, Alphonse isn't there, and you have, Alphonse missing, and, Edward's looking through the sheep. He's frantic now, trying to tell Major Armstrong, what's going on, and Armstrong's like, well, we'll have to catch the next train back. Well, no, it's dangerous to go alone, Edward Elric. You can't do that. And basically he's telling him, I have to protect you. We have to stay together. Edward is having a hard time listening, and it's just not coming in right. And I also forgot, too, there's a scene where Marcoh is in a safe house or in a headquarters safe house, I think awaiting the Führer, because when he knocks on the door, he's going up to answer it to say, what was the Führer's answer? What did the Führer Bradley say? However, it's Lust and Gluttony who are there. Lust, stabs Marcoh in the shoulder, is twisting it, is hurting him. She wants information from Marcoh and what, Dr. Tim Marcoh told the Elric children if they gave anything away. Marcoh is actually struggling, and he realizes that, Lust is an Ouroboros. He can't see Gluttony yet. Gluttony is out of shot, and while he's trying to buy time with Lust, he uses his blood to put in an alchemic circle on the floor, uses it to basically stab a huge stone or concrete thing into Lust. Lust looks like she's dead. You have Marcoh laughing, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, how terrible of you, Doctor. I've died once already. It's hard to kill a woman with this figure, And then you have, Lust, get out of it. She destroys the alchemy that Marcoh made. And she's saying, you're going to tell me what I want to know, Dr. Marcoh. And then she calls Gluttony over. Gluttony has this terrified captive maid in his hands that, like, his head is almost his face is almost gonna eat her head because he's getting ready to eat her. So she's sadly a hostage, and she's absolutely terrified. So I'm going to assume Marcoh is going to give up this information to hopefully save the maid's life. We don't know. It continues on. Edwards, or no, Alphonse, we see at the train station. He's sort of depressed that he was left there because he couldn't tell anybody because he's always supposed to be a suit of armor. All of a sudden, the Rain starts crying, and he's like, no fair, Rain, I'm the one who wants to cry. And then all of a sudden you see this young kid come up, take Alphonse's armor and look at it. And then you have Edward and Major Armstrong get to the train station. They can't find Alphonse. Alphonse is missing. You have this great rendition of I keep forgetting his name, Alex Loiuse Armstrong, showing the conductor or whoever runs the train station house to the guy, and he's like, "That's a beautiful rendition drawing, sir." But yeah, that was the armor. Yeah, yes, our drawing has been passed down through many legacies of the Armstrong family. So they know that he was there. Alphonse, or Edward, is running off in a panic. Alex Loiuse Armstrong tells Alphonse that they need to stick together. You don't want to go off alone. Neither you nor your brother can defend yourself. And then, he tries to stop him and say, Edward, please listen to me. And then Edward, who's upset, is desperate to find his brother, says, Dr. Marcoh told me what all of you did in Ishbal. And then this just causes, Alex Loiuse Armstrong to give a light gasp. He lets go of Edward. Edward runs off. Edward is frantically looking for Alphonse, and then Alphonse runs into a little girl, and this little girl, has what looks like a piece of something, and he wants to ask the little girl, hey, have you seen any big armor around? Have you seen it? Please help me find it. But the girl keeps running away. He goes down another alleyway. Can't see the girl. The girl's actually up on part of one of the buildings that she used as the ladder. She throws a crate at Edward's head, knocking him out for a bit, I'm going to say. She takes the Edward's, automail leg and runs off with it. And Edward's having to hobble after this little girl. He basically gets around the corner to where this little girl's looking sad, standing in front of a house, and there's this old man who's also there, or like middle-aged man who's there, who, has only one leg and he has a crutch. And it cuts to the next scene with Alphonse talking with this one boy who took his armor, and this boy's on a bike, and he's talking about how, with this armor, the Morosa family will help me. I won't be talked down or laughed at, and I'll be able to rub out a few people, and I'll get respect because we'll take out a rival gang, and, they won't bother the town anymore. I'll fix all this. And Alphonse is like, why would you do that? And he's like, the kid crashes his bike because he didn't expect the armor to talk. And then, Edward's like, oh yeah, I'm one of those new armors that talk from Central. Well, where's the off button? No, I don't have an off button, And he continues on down the road telling Alphonse what he wants to do. And Alphonse is like, well, have you ever killed anyone before? And he's like, no, but it can't be too hard. But with you, I'll be able to deflect bullets and not get hurt at all. This armor's great. I barely got a scratch when I fell. And Alphonse basically tells the boy, well, no, that's not what I mean. Your heart is going to hurt. How you feel inside is going to hurt. This causes the kid to crash again, and the boy crashes. And then he's like, trying to fix his bike. And you have Alphonse has this armor trying to take control of the boy, and he's like, here, let me help. And he writes this alchemic circle on the ground, and he basically transmutes the boy's bike into this weird art destroyed, disfigured shape. And then Alphonse goes, I'm the Kostama. You and I will become one, and we will be together forever. And, causes the kid to freak out. And it goes back to Alphonse and this family of this girl and this man. And this man was a veteran of the wars. He fought in wars. Alphonse was trying to guess the war, and then he's shocked because he's like, wait, you don't mean Ishbal, do you? And that's the one that the man said. And the man said, when you're in war, you have to deal with a lot of stuff. You know, everyone gets injured with something. You don't come back the same way. And Edward's like, well, sure, people come back. There's people who come back who don't lose limb or any part of their face or anything at all. They come back okay. And then the guy's like, no, but they lose something inside. And then you have the guy sort of try to reach Edward in a poignant moment where he's like, well, you've lost something too. You lost something of your own, you know, because you're on a male leg, and I could tell you had some sort of prosthetic arm or something. Isn't it something that you live for? And then you have, you know, Edward go on this tirade of how he and his brother did something terrible. They have to get their original bodies back. He wants to do it at any cost. That's our dream. And then he's like, well, if you achieve this dream, isn't it not really a dream? Because then, you know, the dream's over. And, you know, what do you do then after the dream's over? And again, it's one of these things where, you know, Edward, in a strange way, you know, he's understanding what this veteran is saying. He gets it. He understands that the veteran is trying to talk sense and reach him somehow. He doesn't sort of really want to hear it at the moment, but at the same time, you know, he asks the man, why doesn't he want a prosthetic leg and on a male leg? He can walk around, get around again. The girl's happy to hear this, but the grandfather, the veteran, ignores it, saying he looks at this leg as a type of peace, to have peace with his family, to what he almost lost, so he could be with his family, his grandchildren, and have the things that matter to him. And, you know, the girl's disappointed to hear this, and she walks away. Alphonse is still, or Edward is still struggling with this, but he believes he understands the soldier. He sort of leaves the house a little bit upset with the veteran said. Then you see the boy who was with Alphonse run into the house, and you hear the girl go, Grandpa, brothers come home, you know, and like this happy moment. You have Edward running, trying to find Alphonse. Alphonse is there with talismans stuck all over him from the boy, and you have Edward, you know, riding a weird bike, and Edward's like back in this crate trying to get where he needs to go. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're basically talking to one another, happy that they found each other. And then you have Major Alex Loiuse Armstrong come out of nowhere, carrying Alphonse, asking for help. And then in this fleeting moment of vulnerability, given what Edward heard, he looks at the Major and he says, Major, I'm sorry for what I said earlier. And, you know, you have the Major and him understand, and the Major just sort of gives out a like chuckle saying, hey, Edward, no worries, all's forgiven. You were desperate to find your brother, and I'm glad, you know, you were able to calm down and let cooler heads prevail. Then they hear the train whistle, and, you know, basically Major Alex Loiuse Armstrong carries Edward and Alphonse while using his sprinting technique that was passed down from the line of the Armstrong family for generations. And they're running at fast speeds to the train station where the episode ends. And with this one, you know, boy, again, there were many great parts in this with many great voice actors. Again, Edward, Vic Mignogna, Romy Paku, Alphonse, Aaron Smook, Rie Kugamiya, you know, Roy, Travis Willingham, Toru Orkawa, Armstrong, Christopher R. Sabat, Kenji Utsumi, Marcoh, Bryce Armstrong, Koji Totoni, let's see, yeah, I would say, or no, Lust, Laura Bailey, Yuka Sato, Gluttony, Chris Kaysen, Yasuhiro Takato, and then, yeah, I would have to give it to the veteran Robert McCollum, who did the voice for the veteran. So, lot of great voices in there. They don't tell you who the Japanese voice actor is for the veteran. They only go as far as the grandson and the granddaughter, so that's a little weird to me. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. But overall, good episode, great character growth. Again, more things of where the Elrics have to ponder. Is this what they're doing? Are they doing the right thing? While they're on their way to get themselves fixed up, is the Philosopher's Stone going to be worth all this? So again, a great episode that just brings everything together and mesh as well. And sorry if this went a little long in the tooth. I didn't know I'd go that deep into explanation, but you know, was a great episode. So again, what did you guys think? Just leave a comment down below and we'll get this discussion going, alright? Until then, this is 012 Boku, and I'll see you guys later, alright? Bye-bye.